What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Gridiron segment here at House Call Sports. My name is Sammy, that's Chris, and that is Justin. And today we are going to be discussing two very important contract extensions featuring probably the two best weapons in all of football right now, and talking about the wide receiver market in general, the state of it, kind of a state of the union, so to speak, and how the money is starting to flow in. With that being said, let's get started. But before we get started, a word from Vivid Seats. Ladies and gentlemen, Vivid Seats is the most trustworthy and easy to navigate ticketing website. They have reliable and rewarding tickets and a 100% buyer guarantee, which means your transaction will be safe and secure. You will get full service customer care and be compensated for any canceled events. And it's got the only ticket rewards program around, which means as the NFL season gets closer, you can start to lock in your seats and begin to get excited. If you're a Minnesota Vikings fan, you'll guarantee to see Justin Jefferson gritty all over the field, hoping that at least the quarterback is good. But with that being said, get your discount in the link in the description and go sit vividly. Ladies and gentlemen, what a day it has been in terms of 2 days, rather. Two very huge contract extensions featuring arguably the best wide receiver in all of football, Justin Jefferson, and probably the best running back in all of football in Christian McCaffrey. However, it's only right that we start with the man who has the most money out of all of them, and that is Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson has recently signed an extension, 4 years, $140 million. Here's the kicker, though, $110 million guaranteed, which makes him the most paid non-QB in NFL history. Big money for a big money wide receiver. Justin, I'll start with you. What can we expect from this contract moving forward? And what can we expect from Justin Jefferson moving forward? And give us an overall, status of the wide receiver market while we're at it.
First, I would pay anything right now to be that Justin instead of this one right now at the moment. But let's look at the deal itself, what it means for the Minnesota Vikings and for Justin Jefferson before I give my take on how this collectively affects the entire wide receiver market as a whole. For the Vikings, it means as a team, don't expect them to make a deep playoff push and a championship run no time soon. One, because they have a young quarterback, so that needs time to develop. And two, the big thing that everybody keeps talking about is teams that win Super Bowls don't necessarily have these high-paying wide receiver roles. So you're allocating so much money into, yes, a generational talent in Justin Jefferson. And I hope over the next couple of years, ownership, Ziggy Wolf, all of them can navigate around the salary cap for the rest of the team, because you theoretically have 5 years. That's the timeline you have of building around your team while your quarterback is on a rookie deal. So while you develop that, okay, you lock down Justin Jefferson. I need y'all to build the full team because the defense still needs help. Your offensive line needs help. You do have weapons in the receiving game because you still have Addison, you still have Jefferson, you still have, is it Hawkinson that's the tight end?
TJ Hawkinson, yes, sir.
Yep.
Coming off an injury.
So you have weapons on the offense, but there's still some core pieces that need to be built as a team. For Jefferson, go get your money. That's what I tell any player, because we all know the NFL stands for not for long. You got 3 years on average in the league, 10 years if you're lucky to be in this game. So this just set up Jefferson and set up Jefferson's jeweler for a very long time. But let's go into the wide receiver market as a whole. This means that come this season, going into next offseason, you are going to see some explosions in how much not only wide receiver ones, but wide receiver twos and possibly even threes get paid, which is amazing for the receivers. You're going to start seeing college players who are probably playing running back go to try to play wide receiver now. So you're going to see players like T. Higgins, like Brandon Ayuk. They're going to get their money sooner rather than later. Will it be with the teams that they are now? Probably not. Probably they will have to go to a different team. But they will end up getting that bag, which is going to cause a problem with teams. Why? Because let's look at three of the most highest paid positions on average: quarterback, left tackle, and pass rusher. Pass rusher is the only one where you will likely have to pay more than one person at a time. Quarterback, there's only one on the field at a time. Left tackle, only one at a time. Wide receivers, you need two, if not three. So imagine if you are paying $20 million to one, maybe a good 15 to another, that's 35, maybe another 10 to 12. So let's say 40 to 42 out of $200 plus million is going to three players in one position group. Now, unless the salary cap just inflates dramatically over the next couple of years, that's going to cause strain with these teams that do have these duo and trio wide receiver groups. Philadelphia, I don't know how they seem to do it, but they locked in there too. Teams like the Bengals are not going to be able to lock in theirs. They already lost one. So it's going to be interesting to see how this new ceiling in the wide receiver market affects these teams.
Yeah, it's definitely a boom in the wide receiver in terms of money. I wanted to attack this differently because I do know like the money thing. Look, he's getting paid. He's so rich. This brother is so rich. I feel so jealous. I just gotta say though, like this clearly shows. I don't think the Vikings are stupid. Don't think, at least, but they could be. All right, don't look at me like that. Look, I'll say this. I think they are really, really locked in on JJ McCarthy, because if they were not locked in on him, then I don't think they are so. I don't think they give Jay Jettas his contract, because Jay Jettas getting this amount of money. You're absolutely right. It's crazy, and to think that they might compete later on this year or in the future is kind of unlikely. However, I'm looking at this Minnesota Vikings depth chart and the roster in general. I'm looking at the players, and I don't see anybody I really don't see anybody outside of Justin Jefferson worth giving that kind of money to. So it's like, I get what you're saying, Justin, in terms of like, oh, they're not going to compete. They don't have a competing roster right now. They really don't. Okay, they have now. Granted, they have Jordan Addison and T.J. Hawkinson, and those guys are some top. Those are some dogs for real. But if we're talking about top end talent, it's really only on one side of the ball, and that's the weapons. Everything else, there is no top end talent. So, and Jordan Addison is a rookie. I don't exactly know what T.J. Hawkinson's contract is looking like. I don't know if they extended him at all.
I got you right now.
If you guys can help me out with that, I'm pretty sure he got extended.
So right now he is signed through 2027.
2027. So he's going to be there for a bit. Since he signed through 2027, so you have Jordan Addison locked up since he was a rookie last year. You have T.J. Hawkinson locked up. I believe they signed Aaron Jones to a 1-year deal, so he's probably going to be.
T.J. Hawkinson's making some money, man. Oh.
Yeah, and he, I think he's one of the better tight ends in the league, so he absolutely deserves it. But your three best weapons and probably the three best players on the team are extended for a very long time. So now what is this about? It's about getting the others correct, coming in and being correct. Okay, so Brian Flores is a defensive coordinator. I would imagine one of these defensive players is going to have some sort of breakout year, okay? Whether it's Jonathan Grenard, whether it's Andrew Van Ginkel. I think that right now the Vikings are at a state where it's like, well, we don't really have anybody else that we need to really think about right now in terms of paying. So let's just go ahead and give Justin Jefferson this money, right? Have him be satisfied, keep our superstar happy. And while we're keeping him here and keeping him happy, let's try to build something around him. So that's why I'm thinking to myself, they have to have some sort of belief in JJ McCarthy, because if they don't and they give this guy his contract, then they're just like, well, what are you guys doing? I don't think it's a good idea anyway, because I don't think JJ McCarthy is going to be that good. However, I can respect the Vikings for saying, hey, we're all in on this kid. We're going to try to win with him, and we're going to try to we're going to try to make sure that he's surrounded by a good supporting cast. In terms of the wide receiver market, I'll put it to you like this. We're going in a vacuum in terms of like total value, Justin Jefferson is easily the highest guarantee. If we're going total guarantee, Justin Jefferson's hands down the best. But then you look down. Second is AJ Brown. Okay, that makes sense. Amon Ra St Brown. Okay, he was damn good. The next one, and this is a dear one to my heart, Jaylen Waddle. Jaylen freaking Waddle. Okay?
Of course you had to throw him in there.
But he's the fourth highest paid wide receiver in terms of guaranteed money.
Yep.
So if that doesn't tell you that, let's look at the wide receivers that aren't. He's a 2. Let's see all the wide receivers that are below him. You guys ready for this list? Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Amari Cooper, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, Keenan Allen, Nico Collins, right? DJ Moore, Mike freaking Evans.
Yeah.
Get this, Jamar Chase. There's so many wide receivers right now who are licking their chops, looking at the contract that Justin Jefferson just got, and they're like, yo, I'm getting paid. I do not care. I want my money. And it's gonna happen. Someone's gotta pay these guys. You're not gonna put yourself in a situation where you're not like, oh, well, it's another running back problem. How impactful can an elite? No, we know how impactful an elite wide receiver can be for any young QB. We know it. We've seen it with Joe Burrow, with Tua Tagovailoa, with guys like Patrick Mahomes. Even though Patrick Mahomes is a generational talent himself, his first year having Tyreek Hill, that did everything for him. So what this does for the wide receiver market, look, I don't think Justin Jefferson's going to be the highest paid player for very long. I genuinely think that eventually you're going to see some other teams are going to be like, yo, Jamar Chase, guys like Jamar Chase, guys like CeeDee Lamb, potentially Tyreek Hill. Wide receivers like that are looking at this contract that Justin Jefferson just got, and they're just like, show me the money right now because it's happening. Go ahead, Chris.
So, for me, I'm with Justin when it comes to kind of how I feel like this is going to play out. I mean, it makes sense. I think at bottom line, when it comes to Justin Jefferson, I don't think there's anybody who is a true sports fan that looks at this and says he doesn't deserve it. I don't think there's a single person out there that say he did not deserve the contract that he received. And quite honestly, I don't think the Vikings could have afforded to let him go. I mean, yes, you have Addison, who's kind of coming into his own. Yes, you have Hawkinson kind of locked down for a little while. But you really do need, I think that's shown kind of across the league, unless you're Patrick Mahomes, you really need a number one wide receiver. Everybody needs a go-to, someone that can break tackles, get open, create separation, get down the field in a hurry, someone that is just your go-to type of guy, like a Devontae Adams type of guy. And I think Justin Jefferson has done that since he came into the league. So I was actually looking at some of his stats earlier today, which I actually haven't pulled up now. This man has never had, not even in his rookie year, has never had a season that was under 1,000 yards. Not a single season. And last year, he still hit 1,000 yards, and he only played in like 8 or 9 games. So he only played half the season. And there are some wide receivers, one being T. Higgins, who didn't even get close to that. So the fact that he got the contract, I think, is great. But I also think there needs to be a realistic approach to how people are looking at this contract. I mean, like you said, like there's going to be receivers like CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Tyreek Hill, if he decides he wants to restructure and not retire after this contract, that are looking at it are probably like, hey, like that's what I'm looking to get. But I think there has to be a realistic approach. Like if you're comparing yourself to what Justin Jefferson has done thus far in his career, do you really feel that you're at that level? Because quite honestly, I'm not paying T. Higgins $35 million a year. I'm not doing it. Not right now. Right now, from what I was looking at with T. Higgins, he has 2 1,000-yard seasons. It wasn't last year. It was the year prior and the year prior to that. So his rookie year, he didn't have a 1,000-yard season. And last year, he didn't have a 1,000-yard season. So I feel like you could also kind of look at those 2 seasons where he did and kind of compare that to, was that just in relation to the amount of attention that Jamar Chase was getting. And he was just kind of the benefactor of that, because you obviously have to put eyes on Chase. So if you're putting eyes on Chase, then you're naturally going to leave somebody open, which it just happened to be Higgins. So right now, if I'm looking at that, if I'm a team owner and I'm looking at that, especially if I'm the Bengals, I would pay Chase similar I would not pay T. Higgins at that because at this point he's a wide receiver 2. We don't know if he's a wide receiver 1, and I think he's the big for me anyway. Out of the couple receivers that we're looking at overall, and how their contracts may or may not stack up to Justin Jefferson, I think T. Higgins is kind of the one outlier where I'm like, he just doesn't fit in that category right now. I see Jamar Chase very, very easily could probably get a very similar contract. CeeDee Lamb for sure. I mean, who else is on the Dallas Cowboys right now that is putting up the numbers he's putting up? Nobody. So like, okay, you can see those two because they're prime names. But then you look at T. Higgins, and you're like, okay, $140 million? No, not happening. So I do think he can reset the market, but similar to what Justin is saying, when it comes to the Vikings, I don't know where they go from this. The only positive I really got from it when I was kind of doing my own little deep dive into it was that his contract, as far as like how much percentage it takes up in the cap, doesn't really get astronomical until I believe it was 2026 and 2027. That's where he's taking like 13.5% of the cap space. By then, though, JJ McCarthy you should know what you have. Between the third and fourth year, you're going to know what he is and is not. So at that point, if you're in a good position, because now you have to start thinking about him and picking up his fifth year option. So when you're looking at that, if you're on the right path, then maybe you can restructure Justin Jefferson's contract. The biggest thing is obviously the 110 guaranteed, and then the 88 million given, I believe, up front as a signing bonus, which is insane. So from that, so in a way, you set yourself up for the future in that regard, as far as like you're kind of giving yourself some wiggle room to let JJ McCarthy kind of figure out what he's going to be while also maintaining your superstar. But I do feel like overall it's probably going to bite them in the butt. And if a lot of teams start going this route, that would be my concern. Is like if you're spending so much money, like you said, there's at least 2, if not 3 wide receivers that you have to pay at this point, because if that's what everybody is looking at, if they're looking at minimum, because if I'm not mistaken, they said that T. Higgins got an offer, they said was less than 20 million from the Bengals. So you see what they feel like he's worth. And to me, that's still a lot of money. Because if you're looking at 2014, 2016, 19, those like that 20 million was top dollar. That was your number one prime superstar. So now we're looking at that as a wide receiver 2 option. So I just feel like it's not going to age very well in the route that these wide receivers are getting paid, because there are going to be several key positions that are going to be kind of left out in the dust. And I do feel like you might see a lot of transition, kind of like you're seeing in like the college and the NIL thing with a lot of transfers. I feel like you're going to start seeing a lot of these superstar players not live out their career with the teams that they started with if they become uberly successful in the NFL because of the money situation. So I think you are going to see a lot of transition in the next probably 5 or 6 years with a lot of these superstar players moving on to other teams. So it might be gone of the days of like Brady and the Pats or Peyton and the Colts and things like that, because the money seems to be just the prime reason now, instead of it being about championships.
It's the prime interest, 1,000%. Yeah. I don't think it's. I don't think that we should be mad at the players.
No, not at all.
And I'm not saying you are. However, I am going to say this, that like there are some people who question the motives behind why wide receivers take more money and don't sacrifice for the team. Because you got to understand, these people haven't been in their shoes. They really haven't. They don't know what it is to struggle. They think, oh, everything got to be teamwork. Like, no, like maybe in a family, yeah, but like what, if I had an opportunity to be the highest paid wide receiver in history, highest paid non-quarterback in history,
of course,
I'm taking that. I am. Now there comes a point where it's like, okay, you got your money, but now it's time to like say, okay, like Tyreek Hill, for example. At one point, Tyreek Hill was the highest paid wide receiver in the league. He got his money, right? Yeah. And he's now 30 years old. I don't expect Tyreek Hill at this point, if he wants to win in Miami, to say, oh, well, I want the highest, I want top dollar. Similar, like if you want to win, the same thing with CeeDee Lamb. If you want to win, this thing is different. That's why I think in terms the wide receiver market, it's different with certain franchises. I really do think it is because for the Vikings, it's very obvious that in that NFC North, they are probably going to be the last in that division, just on paper, right? Unless JJ McCarthy and Sam Darnold surprise. But if we're looking at it in a vacuum, they're probably going to be last. But you look at the Dolphins and you look at the Cowboys, you even look at the Bengals. Bengals are trying to compete. Cowboys are trying to compete. Dolphins are trying to compete. They got top wide receivers. And you would assume, hey, you know, I want to pay you, but Micah Parsons also needs to get paid. You got to remember that, right? Yeah, I want to pay you, Tyreek, but you got to realize I got to pay Waddle, then I got to pay Jalen Phillips. Hey, remember, I let Christian Wilkins walk because I had to pay Waddle, your buddy. So, and then for the Bengals, honestly, for the Bengals, it's a bit different because the Bengals like really don't have anybody. After losing Jesse Bates, they don't really have anybody on the defensive end that's really a top 10 other than maybe Trey Hendrickson. And even Trey Hendrickson is probably going to leave eventually if they do pay Jamar Chase. So you people, we got to understand this. Like there is certain situations where it makes sense to pay your top wide receiver top dollar. For the Vikings, I think it makes sense because, well, there's nobody really else you got to really pay long term that's really significant. So it's like, okay, let me make my wide receiver happy. And I'm personally high on this quarterback who we think could take us to the promised land. Okay, so we'll pay him, develop him, hope Brian Flores mashes up the defense, and maybe they do start winning. You really never know. Overall, I think that the wide receiver market, it's heading toward a weird place for sure. It's not heading toward a place where I think people are going to be comfortable. I think owners are starting to realize how much the wide receiver position is starting to be valued. And I mean, that's just a wide receiver. You're also talking about the QBs, right? The edge rushing, the defensive side of the ball, that could get interesting. What about the running backs? And speaking of running backs, Christian McCaffrey.
Get into that. I do have one other mark about it. Do you know who else is very happy about this whole wide receiver market resetting? Cornerbacks. Because the same way pass rushers get paid because of how much quarterbacks get paid, now that receivers are getting paid $25, $30 million, expect DBs to also get there soon.
Run my money up. I'm guarding the highest paid player.
What Sauce Gardner's going to get. You can imagine Ron Bland with the Cowboys if he continues the way he's playing. CBs and maybe
Pat Surtain. Pat Surtain's going to want.
Oh man, yeah.
There's a lot of corners.
Singletary in Houston.
Yeah.
So
it's a lot of underlying factors that are immediately affected with this wide receiver market being so big now. So Justin Jefferson just changed the entire NFL. I genuinely believe it with this contract. The NFL, I don't think is going to be. I think right now we're seeing a point where yes, he deserves the money, but watch what happens around him. Then that's really going to save.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now we got running backs. Christian McCaffrey signed an extension today, I believe. Extended it 2 years, $19 million a year, I believe.
38 overall.
Let me just say this about Christian McCaffrey. Again, no one is complaining because we see his impact, right? Like I don't see. He's the one running back that I can say he stays healthy now that he's in San Francisco. Right, he's the beneficiary of in the Shanahan system being amplified. Right, you could argue the best offensive player on the planet in terms of the NFL. Like that's how good Christian McCaffrey really is. So I'm not going to sit here and make an argument why running backs should be paid less. This is a bad idea because if we're gonna be honest, like what he's been able to do. Now, what I think things are going to shake a bit is how the wide receivers in San Francisco take it. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, how are they going to take this? Because, well, quite frankly, you're seeing it. They clearly are higher on Christian McCaffrey they think Christian McCaffrey is a lot more important than guys like a Brandon Ayuk and guys like a Deebo Samuel. And I would not necessarily disagree. So, Chris, I'm going to start with you. Talk about this contract extension with Christian McCaffrey.
So with McCaffrey, I mean, I definitely second what you're saying. I feel like he is probably their second most important player on that team, especially when you start talking about the offense. I do also wonder how that's going to impact. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not so worried about Deebo Samuel. There's just something in my soul. I don't know. Maybe he just seems like a good guy, and I like to think the best of everybody. I don't feel like he's going to give San Francisco such a hard time when they start talking about contracts. So I foresee that he would probably do something team friendly, especially with the route what they're going. So it's something that Justin said earlier, where you normally see teams that don't. Their players tend to be a little more team friendly because they want to win championships, and that's really where they're at right now. It's especially, with Purdy being the way that he is and how he came on. You have a really good shot of just being in the mix every year for the foreseeable future. So I think Samuel will be a little more team friendly, but I do worry about Brandon Ayuk. That would be my biggest concern. He's already not showing up to minicamp. And then on top of him not showing up to mandatory minicamp and taking the fines because he wants a contract extension, almost the same day that he doesn't show up, you extend Christian McCaffrey. And it's not a small extension. It's not like, it's a couple $1 million. From what I read, it is basically adding on $8 million to what he was already being planned to make. And there's like $24 million in bonuses. So it's like $38 million overall for the 2 years. So it averages out to about 19 a year, which for a running back right now in this market is insane. But again, well deserved. I mean, the man works his tail off, so it's not like it's undeserved, but I don't know how that's going to go over with the wide receivers who are also waiting for an extension. I personally don't see this upsetting the running back market too much, to be honest with you. But I can definitely see the wide receiver market kind of also being a little impacted by that, because if a running back is getting 19 million, now given a superstar running back, but if a running back at the end of the day is getting 19 million a year, you can already guarantee that a wide receiver too is looking at as a starting negotiation at 19 a year. So I don't know. We'll see how it shakes out. But as far I feel like the Justin Jefferson one is definitely obviously more significant than Christian McCaffrey, for sure. But I think with Christian McCaffrey's, it definitely is more, I would say probably more impacting to the actual team and those that are waiting to get paid or try to get contract extensions done. And like you said, showing exactly who it is that they're prioritizing. Because what is I need to go look and see what Kittle is looking like these days
in terms of salary cap year.
Yeah, both. I'm looking at it right now.
$12 million cap hit this year. 22 million next year.
He's gonna get paid eventually. He's gonna get
a year after that. So he's signed literally till 2026.
Okay. So then they're good.
That's another guy that they're gonna have to think about down the line. 2 years is not exactly as short as that.
I look at Kittle and Samuel kind of in that same realm. I do feel like they're 49ers through and through. And I feel like if it is up to them, they will do what needs to be done to stay on that team. That's just how I feel about it. I don't foresee, it would shock me if Kittle leaves the 49ers for sure. And I mean, I wouldn't be terribly shocked, but I personally internally would be slightly surprised if Deebo also leaves. My biggest thing is I think Brandon Ayuk is gone. If not this year, next year by far. Especially they just drafted Purcell as well. So if he comes on, I don't know. Yeah, and Ayuk is already kind of on Twitter and on Instagram and doing the little stuff that disgruntled players start doing.
Wide receiver shenanigans is what I like.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So he's already kind of putting himself out there that he's disgruntled. So I don't feel like, if I had to choose two receivers that I don't feel like are going to be on the same team that they're on either by the end of this year, if they're not traded this year, or by the next year, I would say probably Ayuk and Higgins, I think are gone for the most part.
Yeah, and another thing before you go, Justin, that I want to point out is that the running back market in general, the problem with running backs and why this isn't giving the running backs any leverage at all, even though it's resetting the market, right? It is. However, it's resetting the market for top running backs, like a Saquon Barkley, like a Christian McCaffrey, like a Derrick Henry. It's an exclusive club, right? Like it's exclusive. Yep. And with McCaffrey, it's even more exclusive when you think about it because of how he affects the game. So I think running backs, I don't want running backs to see that contract and think, oh, we have a shot. You don't. No. I'm sorry. You don't. Like, it's not happening. And it's sad. It really is sad. But, like, this is the new era. Okay. Running backs are expendable now. Okay.
Gone is smash mouth football.
Yeah, it is. Smash mouth football is done, unfortunately. Now, you've seen teams try to do it, right? You know, you've seen like teams like the Ravens, teams like the Titans have tried. However, it just does not work. It's just not going to work anymore, especially if down the line they stop the run and you don't have an offensive, passing game. It's not going to work. But Justin, I'll go to you next, brother.
I love how you mentioned having a running game but no pass game, and you go straight to me, knowing that's been my Giants for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
Yeah, it was strategic. All right. But I will agree and disagree with you on one thing when it came to the running back market. Yes, it is reset. However, I agree that it makes no difference in the market because it's reset against himself. He was already the highest paid running back at $16 million a year. Now he's just the highest paid running back at $19 million a year. That still is clearing a, $4 million gap between him and the second highest paid, which is Alvin Kamara at $15 million.
Alvin Kamara is getting $15 million?
Yeah, his average per year is $15 million.
Oh, wow.
Hold on, time out.
Stop
Alvin Kamara?
Stop playing.
Yep. Okay. So, citing my sources, this is coming from Over the Cap. So, highest running back contracts based on average per year.
Wow.
Christian McCaffrey, now it's going to be 19. Alvin Kamara, $15 million. 18. Jonathan Taylor, $14 million. Saquon Barkley, 12.58.
Wow.
Josh Jacobs at 12. They're the only 5 running backs over $10 million a year.
That's crazy. His cap number this year, Alvin Kamara this year is 18.5. That is insane.
And this is why teams do not want to pay running backs. Because look at Alvin Kamara is going based off of last year. He's having the same situation that who the fuck? Sorry, who was that running back that was doing so? Todd Gurley.
Todd Gurley
was and then he started having injury troubles and theoretically fell off a cliff. So that is the fear that is going on, and that is what is holding running backs back from making the kind of money that they can make, the money that wide receivers are making, because this is a position where you are taking contact every single play. With the exception of the trenches, running backs take the most hits out of any other position that I can think of, because you are going through the heart of a defense and getting hit left, right, and center. So that is what's going to keep running backs at this state. And going into the 49ers situation, Ayuk is not coming back after this year if he stays here the whole year. I feel like the Niners are going to get a bunch of calls. I feel like there's going to be a bunch of interest in him. For the longest, I thought it was going to be my Giants, but my Giants kind of have a young core wide receiver group that I'm actually excited for, especially after the draft. But look at the situation that San Francisco is in. Currently, they have $32 million in cap space. Great. Sounds perfect, especially when you see all the talent that they have. Next year, based on this year's numbers, they are $37 million over the cap. And that is with Travarius Ward having a void year, Dre Greenlaw having a void year, Deebo Samuels last year, he actually has a cap hit of $24 million. Trent Williams has a cap hit of $34 million. Nick Bosa, $20 million. Fred Warner, 29. George Kittle, 22. Javon Hargrave, 28. There's a window to win a championship. This is what happens when you want to go all in and you miss.
Yep.
So if San Francisco is poised to win a championship, it has to be this year. Especially because you got to find your quarterback at some point.
Talk about pressure.
He's going to get top 3 to 5 money. I don't know if he's not gonna get top money, but he'll get probably top 3 to 5 money, hands down.
I definitely think for the Niners, it's definitely the last dance for them, for a lot of them over there. So we're gonna have to see, man. It's now that I think about it, the Niners have a lot of pressure going into this year, in terms of like their team success. Like it's not about making the Super Bowl anymore, and we all know how hard it is to make a Super Bowl, man. We all know, like, any given game, no room for error. It's nuts. Like, and this is their window. This is it. This is officially it. Like whether people want to admit it or not, like, this team has been elite the past, like, what, 3 seasons?
3 or 4 years. Yep.
Right? Even dating back to 2019. So this has been a great team for five years now, but this is it. This is the last year where we can say, okay, the Niners are going to be contenders, and then after that, if they don't get it done, it's time to pay the piper. And by the piper, I mean literally everybody. Like it's actually crazy thinking about it. So they already like checked one box off with McCaffrey, but there are so many boxes that need to be, like, running back. They know they can handle, because the running back market's so small. It's like, okay, fine, we'll just pay Christian McCaffrey. But now it's the Drake Greenlaws of the world, George Kittle eventually. You got Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. You said the list, Justin. It's so many players. So yeah,
and going back into the Minnesota Vikings, this is the problem I have with these big contracts. You want to know why these cap numbers are so big? Because NFL teams backload contracts. So it looks low in year one. You look at Justin Jefferson, I think his cap was like $1.8 million this year, first year of that extension. Mm-hmm. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to hit 20, 30. I think Jefferson's thing is $47 million that last year is his cap hit. This is the problem with backloading contracts in the NFL. Yep. If you backload a contract and you don't win a chip, then you are doing this for no reason. We can talk about the Rams all we want, about what they did, trading away all their picks, signing all their players. They got a ring out of it. So mission accomplished. Niners haven't done it yet. Minnesota is going to start this process because they got to build a team doing that. And there's other teams in the league that are focused on doing it. The Eagles did it. They are loading up on contracts. Yes, I use this opportunity to talk about the Eagles. They are doing it. If they don't win a title in 3 years, they're out of it as well.
But that window has been created for them. Like, that's the benefit of the Eagles. The Eagles are very aware. Even now, they're going to be successful, right? This is the years they're going to have to be successful. So what you're doing, Justin, is you're preying on their future downfall. You're praying that one bad game. I know you. I know how you operate. I know.
One bad game? Hold up. Did you see the entire second half of their season?
Okay, no, look, I'm not going to sit here and die on the Eagles hill, okay? I'm not dying in a Philadelphia Eagles argument, okay? I'm not going to do that, okay? I'll die on my sword with the 305. I will never die on my sword for that scum fan base. I'm sorry. That's how she said it. Look, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that. Look, Philly, I love you. I love you guys. You guys are just very, very passionate. Way too passionate. But
he loves you. I don't.
Okay, I know you don't. Okay, I don't know what it is with New York and Philly. Maybe it's because they're right next to each other. It's like you guys are just neighbors that like yell at each other, and you both have terrible houses, right? You both are you both have terrible houses. You both have like everything is falling apart, and you guys are just like yelling at them, like, "Hey, you guys suck!" And it's like,
and then we both will team up to gang up on Miami that's going underwater.
Then you guys blow up.
Oh, hard stop.
You guys made me.
Brought you by
Fair. That's why I moved out of Orlando. No, thank you.
I'm chewing my gum in frustration.
I'm like, and I'm leaving it there.
You guys, that was messed up, Justin. I don't appreciate you hurting my feelings like that. I know I came at your city, but damn.
Don't worry. The Rams are embodiment of Miami because they're both going underwater.
Look, hold on. The Rams, at the very least, are like structuring. I wanted to attack this point before we go on and close out the show. Like, the Rams, at the very least, have something going for them. You feel me? Matthew Stafford, for example, is a damn good quarterback. He's going to be their quarterback for the next couple of years. You can build something. So right now, their window, granted, it's not an extremely huge window for like contention. Their window is still there, like to at least compete a little bit. Now, the fact that they were able to rebuild in less than a year and make the playoffs and give a fight to an NFC team that is now going to be considered not a dynasty, but like a good team going forward. I see that as an absolute win for me. That's me personally.
I'll give you that one. And me and Chris was praising the Rams last week because of their great draft picks and who we think may win defensive with the honors between Braden Fisk and Jared Verse. So you know what? I'll take it back what I said about the Rams. I'll replace them with the Dolphins because we all know that they can't.
No, can't do that because at least the Dolphins are going to be a solid team this year. Okay, that's
until the weather hits below 70.
Hot take. I think y'all are taking the division. To be honest,
it's not a hot take. We're doing it. Okay, it's not a hot take.
Well, I'm calling it a hot take.
I do after the regular season.
That's fair. That's fair.
Vision, it'll be the most successful season we've had in about 20 plus years.
Listen, Tua changed his whole hairstyle for this year, okay? He is prepped and ready, and he is primed. Make sure he is agile, he is aerodynamic.
Tua looks like me now. Tua looks like me now.
Clean cut. Got skinny, he's ready to go. He said he's aerodynamic. He's ready.
He said he can extend plays.
There you go.
He can extend plays. I better see that man circling around the pocket. I better see that man go outside I better see that man go out right and throw crossbody down the sideline to Jaylen Waddle. I better see that play at least once or twice this year, or I will not believe him. Best believe.
Is that contract worth it?
This is true.
The man's about to make a lot of money. No player deserves it more than my tribal chief Tua Tagovailoa. With that, we'll go ahead and end the show.
Talking about Miami anymore?
Yeah. You guys. I begin to get frustrated when people mark my words. The Miami Dolphins are going to be a really damn good team this year. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to win a playoff game.
Hey,
this is the year. It's happening. Clip it. It's going to happen.
It's a home game.
I don't like the way you're talking to me. Okay, I don't like that. I don't like that one bit. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new. Thank you guys so much for watching. Next week, we'll be back talking about our dark horse teams to miss the playoffs. How about that? We'll catch you guys next time. Peace.